I'm gonna be smoking.
Okay, we are live. This is
What is up?
What? Okay.
I didn't know you were to hit the button.
Anyway, the point of this whole chat is what's going on and whatnot. I don't know what we're going to call this, but this is Honda and I talking about the news at the moment, I guess. So they're mobilizing the National Guard in New York, California, and Washington, and I think mostly in New York City, LA, and Seattle, but maybe it's everywhere. I'm not exactly sure. I heard a rumor about this as early as Thursday or Friday of last week and started buying shit because the rumor I was hearing was that they're activating everywhere. But
dude, I think that's
in retrospect, the people I was hearing it from were all in California and New York. So I don't know.
Well, I think that's probably going to happen, dude. Honestly, I mean, like it's been part of the plan the whole time. As we covered a Frog Chat 2 weeks ago with medical martial law, they had all of these bills written in 2005, like ready to implement for whenever there was an emergency.
We have shit on the books right now that says you can just make National Guard policemen instantly if you want to.
Yeah.
And that is no bueno.
Well, it's the suspension of posse comitatus. I mean, basically, you can't use military personnel on U.S. soil against civilians.
Well, unless you see, that's the thing with the National Guard is the National Guard is not the U.S. military. They're little a as opposed to big A Army, and that is a big difference. That was one of their points is that they can be used on U.S. soil. However, the ability to fucking just make them police officers is no, that should never fucking happen. Like, they should be deployed for fucking filling sandbags at floods and shit like that. That's the point of the National Guard.
Do you remember a couple of years back when they were having all those military training exercises where they were training in
Jade Helm?
Like the cities using were just like normal American suburbia, and they weren't like they were like, oh, this is practice for Afghanistan, but they were like English, and you know what I mean? Like, you're not really practicing for Afghanistan.
Honestly, I don't think that really has that much to do with this because these guys are National Guard, and those guys that were doing that were like Green Berets and Rangers and shit. Like, it was the people that they were training in that Jade Helm shit or anything that they've done like that I've ever been aware of, or special forces or close to it. Not,
I mean, I'd have to look.
National Guardsmen.
I'm not sure that it was part of Jade Helm. I'd have to look at specifically what it was, but I do remember specifically a video, people like being like, "No, we're not going to take your shit," and like fucking, they were like protesters, like American protesters, and then they came in with like rubber bullets and sound thing, like all the suppression stuff that they use, like technology.
The scary thing is, you don't teach the National Guard to fucking do that shit in a Jade Helm thing. You teach special forces how to do that shit so they can be rapidly deployed to National Guard units and teach them to do that rapidly. Like, that's what special forces do. They are combat teachers. They are there to teach necessary combat skills to an indigenous population. And if that indigenous population is little a National Guardsman, you know, that makes it even easier because he's already in the fucking system, you know?
Well, and if things get bad enough, I wouldn't put it past the government to deploy either like the fucking NATO, the UN soldiers, you know, blue helmets. I don't know, man. I think that might be coming, and that's in the plans. What happens in the situation is that if it gets bad, they're calling in UN. So again, if the world's really bad, like, I don't know, you'd be available to deploy on American soil.
That's kind of what I'm thinking, is that like most of the UN forces that I'm aware of are from Europe, and Europe is way fucked worse than us. So I'm not really that worried about Blue Helm.
The majority of UN soldiers are from Africa, ironically.
Yeah, and you know where they work.
Look at just pure numbers. Like, that's where the majority of the soldiers come from.
Do you know where they work and what they do, though, is my thing, because all those UN soldiers in Africa work in Africa.
In Africa.
You can't pull them out of Africa because shit will go awry there. So, like, if that's
Right.
their plan, it's not well thought out.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know. Shit's gonna be crazy though. As soon as
I
people
think
start getting primal.
if you're not stocked up on ammo and food and everything else you fucking need right now, you're a fucking idiot. Shit is getting weirder by the day.
Yep. I don't know, man. Where does it stop? How that's kind of my question. Like, how far is this going to pull back the
Well,
reins? Is this just like a test for the real fucking thing that's going to happen later, or is this the fucking real thing?
I think that if people are actually doing this like we think they are, then I think they don't fully know what's happening or going to happen, but they're wanting change, and they're doing this to get change, and that might change us into China, but it might change us into fucking Mad Max too. Like, there's a part of the American people that aren't going to fucking take a lot of this shit, and I think we may be referring to before, February 2020 as the before times
Right.
soon. Like, that's going to get that bad if they try that shit.
Like, this is the event horizon we're passing through right now.
Yep.
I think that's pretty much
Everything's fucking.
like everything from here. Like, is anyone's guess.
Well, like everyone at the end of 2019 was all, let's make 2020 a good one. And then it was like instantly, like the next week, we were talking about war with Iran and all sorts of crazy shit. And since then, every week, it's something even crazier. And 2020 just keeps getting worse.
If you go back to the gay frog chat that we had directly after the New Year's, I forget which one that was. I specifically mentioned the fact that I cannot wait for this year to be over because I have a feeling this is going to be the ever fucking experience. I had no idea like about this shit, about what was going to happen. But with like the election of Trump, I mean, like the election.
I was looking forward to it because I like the election politics shit, and I like to see who wins and whatever. And every election year, it's exciting. And I was kind of like you, it's going to be a shit show because 2016 was a shit show, but I wasn't expecting fucking pandemics and fucking conspiracy,
Right. I was thinking more like the liberals, as crazy as they went in 2016, are probably going to get even crazier and perhaps violent. Sorry, Corona.
Well, especially like with the Antifa shit and the rioting in the streets and whatever. They were doing that when they had food.
Right.
Wrap your mind around that. Imagine what Antifa will do without food and toilet paper. They will eat each other.
Well, the one thing that they're doing is dangling socialism in front of all the people who wanted socialism. So maybe they will go along with the program as long as they think they'll get their monthly check.
Dude, like, they are breeding the new generation to be socialist, and then their answer to this shit is socialism. And like, it's obvious now that whoever is behind all of this shit, whether it's happenstance or actual people or whatever is behind it wants us to be socialist. That's the clear direction we're headed.
It's the Hegelian dialectic. Problem, reaction, solution. We wouldn't have accepted socialism under any other circumstance except for the one where we would need it to survive.
Which by getting us a virus that keeps us in our fucking houses and you can't go to work and you can't make money, well, then the only thing you have left is give me money from the government,
Okay, so you remember like a month ago when China was like, oh, it wasn't even a month ago, like a couple weeks ago, China was like, America created this virus and released it in China. It's their fault.
Yeah. Well, what if they're right?
That we did?
I don't know.
I'm not saying
at this point.
Is it a possibility? What's the?
I think it's pretty obvious that the Chinese are, to some extent, in league with or competition against whatever forces on this planet want the United States to be a socialist fucking nation. I don't know if they're on each other's side or not, but they're definitely aware of each other. And like when China says shit like that, it makes me kind of think that what if those powers that be know that if they release a fucking virus in Wuhan, it'll eventually get here because of all the trade with China, and they'll get the effect they want, and then they can blame it on China.
Right.
I don't know if they're that fucking cunning and sneaky and whatever, or if this is actually China just trying to cover up the fact that they had a fucking leak of a biological weapon, which I'm pretty sure this is. This was engineered. Everyone is pretty much in agreement on that.
Well, I think you got to go back to McCarthy, to be honest, because he was the one who pointed out, rightfully so, historically, that in fact our government has been infiltrated by foreign agents from communist countries, mainly Russia back then. But I think that's more.
Everyone likes to give McCarthy a bad rap, but what they don't mention is that in addition to all of the innocent fucking, I'm going to call them fair weather socialists that he found in Hollywood, he also found legit communists in fucking powerful positions in the United States.
Well, if you were a communist country trying to exert influence in America, what would be one of the places that you would go? Hollywood, right? It's the media. If you can influence the entertainment business, then you can influence subtly the thinking of the community, right? So I don't think that's without merit to look at influencers in that realm, especially back then when there was that huge dividing line between the people who create content and the people who consume it. It's like that line's blurred, but back then, in order to be on the silver screen, you had to go through whatever barriers there were at that time, which were basically like keepers and people who held the power. And if you didn't go through them, you weren't on TV. You didn't get in the movies. You weren't on radio. You know.
The thing that scares me right now is that shit that they're voting on in Congress. Like that could be, the thing that helps us with this, or it could be the first step of, National Socialism.
Well, again, I think this is the Hegelian dialectic, and I think that's the solution that they want. Reasons. I don't know. I couldn't spell out all the reasons, but lots of reasons why they would want people to be under their thumb.
At this point, like with the amount of shit that we're paying in taxes, I would rather us be a little bit more socialist than fucking pay this much money in taxes and get nothing. I would rather pay less in taxes altogether and not fucking have anything, So, like, of the options available, like on the path we're headed, at least I guess socialism is better than this fucking crazy ass, let's pay all our money in and then we get nothing back. That sounds great.
Well, think about it. They've set up a system where more and more expensive to the point most people, especially those coming up, they've made it so that and all that means most people have to rent, and the renter has to have money, so the rent costs a lot of money, and you never get anything out of it. So you've got these rent slaves who just work this 9-to-5 job to barely pay the bills every month to just get by, right? Like back in the day, you could just find a plot of land that wasn't used, claim it as your own, fucking cut down some trees, build a cabin, and what you fucking make is yours, right? There was no fucking income tax on things that you make. There was no income tax on money that you earned. There was an income tax on capital gains, which was written in before the 16th Amendment to the Constitution, which stopped all appropriations taxes beyond that point. However, I mean, look at Wesley Snipes, man. He's in jail because of that shit, because he saw the hypocrisy of it, decided to stand up against it, and look at him, dude.
He's not now. He's out of jail.
He for years he was in trouble. He had tons of fucking money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
And people blame him for that.
It's I don't know. I don't see any way out of our current predicament that doesn't involve some sort of socialism, because they've taken us so far down that path.
Get rid of the Federal Reserve Bank. Give the Senate the power to control the monetary system back in their hands.
Well,
stop printing money. Stop taxing people so much. Let the free market reign, and let people take care of each other instead of relying on government.
I take that back. I do see two other ways out of it, and one of them is the full Mad Max apocalypse, and the other one would be some sort of power struggle where there is no more U.S. government and we form a new one. And neither one of those are especially attractive options, to be honest. Because the danger with reforming a new government is if you don't have a bunch of people like the founding fathers all in charge of shit, then you have the fucking shitheads that we have now in charge of reforming a new government. Then you get something horrible and even worse than I could possibly imagine.
Well, I mean, this argument goes back all the way to the founding of there was the argument between the Federalists and the I forget the Whigs or whatever. So the Federalists wanted federal government power.
Democratic Republicans,
yeah,
and the Federalists.
I mean, there were different political parties back then. So, and this is just going.
Well, no. I'm saying like the other party was called the Democratic Republicans. That was a party.
Hey, we're back to that again.
Well, honestly, that party split and became the Democrats and the Republicans, but with the federal ideas. So it's sort of like, I don't know. Those two parties did some weird shit and then became the two parties that we know now. But yet they both took a name from one of them and then took the ideals of the other one.
And like the power struggle that we're talking about was, in my opinion, the main thing that led to the Civil War, right? Because that was basically about federal power versus state power. The southern states believed that they had the right as states to exert power over their own states and do certain things. And then the northern states were more like federalized and thought that the federal government were the states, and they basically fought it out. And that's kind of,
well,
I mean,
after the
slavery
Civil War,
into it, but
after the Civil War, we lost a lot of states' rights. And after this shit, we're going to be losing even more states' rights. Like you could effectively form one big national federal government that says "fuck you," you do what we say, or you get fucking stomped on from this shit, man.
Dude, I would argue that this has the danger and potential to be as world changing to as.
Honestly, I think this is at least the second Great Depression, if not something way worse than that, like the start of a fucking second Civil War, or I don't know exactly where this is going. But with some of the stuff that they're proposing to fucking save us from a virus that at best kills a few million people, I don't think it's worth the squeeze.
It'd be about 15 million people on the upper end, supposedly, in America who would die, which is quite a bit, right? 15 million people. Yeah.
But at the same time, though, is it worth destroying the entire country to save, what, a third of them? Maybe not even that. Probably less than that, because I'm betting it's going to be 15 million people, whether we do shit or not. It's just 15 people in 2 months versus 15 people in a year, or 15 million people in a year.
Dude, and like I've been watching High Impact Vlogs. He's another YouTuber. He's actually bigger than Matt, and he seems to think. Well, he's in Oklahoma, not far from you, actually, too. But he seems to think that this is just a hoax perpetrated by the government, and that like, sure, there's a flu, sure, it's bad. And sure, people are going to die, but is it going to be that much worse than any normal flu season? Probably not. And in the end, like the number of jobs that are lost and economy that's lost to prevent this thing is going to completely outweigh whatever benefits there are, like all that stuff.
The economic impact of this is going to be so much worse than 15 million people dying. It's not even funny, and no one's even really talking about that, I don't think.
Yeah, because everybody's excited for socialism, right? They don't have to go to work now. They don't have to go to school now. The kids are happy. They don't have they can stay up late. They don't have to do homework, right? Like the college kids are all happy because now they don't have to pay for their college, right?
What was
they're going to get free money from the government. What's that?
What was that guy's name? The blog guy.
High Impact Vlog. He's 2 channels: High Impact Vlogs and High Impact Flicks, FLIX.
Okay.
I'm actually a mod on his channel. I've been trying to get him on for an interview, but he's a busy guy.
On the whole fucking people are liking socialism thing, dude. Part of this is the reality that we could, if we wanted to, organize our society in such a way that, you know, the average person didn't have to work and they were free to do whatever the fuck it is they needed to do. Because in reality, like if you did have socialism and all this shit and fucking imposed some of this stuff, you could totally make it to where, there was a large class of people dependent on the government and they never did shit. And to a lot of people, I think that's a very attractive option when, your alternative is working at fucking McDonald's. And I don't blame those people about that at all, because that fucking sucks. I would like to see some version of like a universal basic income that's not fucking socialism to fucking bridge that gap of like, man, if I lose my job at McDonald's, I'm not going to be able to feed my kids. I'd like to see that without all of this fucking evil and power and shit. Like, that's what kills me about some of this. Is I actually do like some of the effects. I just don't like what they're doing to get us there, and I don't like where they're going to take us after that.
I think it's gotten to the point where they should start opening up national land that's owned by the federal government and like give it to people so that they can pay used to, So like who's younger and strong build,
Right. If you did this correctly, that would be a great way to go to, because like Alaska or Montana or any of these, big Western states even that have all this fucking land, you would have to impose such a thing where, you get this land for free. It's 40 acres or whatever the fuck it is, and you get to settle there, but you can't sell it for like 40 years or some shit like that, like a long time. And yeah, you can't do this more than once or whatever. So you can't fucking claim like the entire state of Montana somehow, because some evil corporation somewhere will be like, man, we can land.
It's like have all of our employees in this one area. Yeah. I don't know, man. There's got to be a level of free market there. You couldn't impose something like that, but I could see like no one entity can own more than, like 2 plots or whatever. So if you want to build your factory here, okay, fine. But you can't have like the whole fucking pasture, like fuck off.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Well, like my thing with the homesteading thing is, with this stuff that is going on, it's apparent that we should not live in big cities. We have all this fucking land. We have so many jobs that can be done by a telecommute or whatever, or you could grow your own fucking food or whatever to figure out money out there. Like, if we did this right, this could be a good thing to change our society into a more sustainable long-term thing. And the dark version of this thought scares the fuck out of me, because the dark version of this thought is, some fucking power at be going, man, that is what we should head towards, and I don't care how many people we have to kill to get there.
Well, I mean, if it got to the point where like, and I think we're almost there, if we just implemented it on a mass scale around everything, where like 90% of jobs are fulfilled by robots. Right.
Oh, we are like years away from that, man. As soon as we
could implement it a lot more than we are, right?
Yeah, definitely. Automated stuff or self-serve stuff,
And if it even got to the point where like 70% of jobs that are available are done by robots, then it's
I have a perfect example of this shit, man. Have you been to a movie theater lately?
Oh, yeah.
Because I worked at a movie theater in high school, and when I was there, we had 100 employees, and we had, every concession stand had, a dozen to 20 people in it. And now there are like 4 people in them, and it's so automated and self-serve that all they do is take the money. They take the money and they hand you popcorn. That's basically all they do.
Pretty soon they won't even do that, though. Like, there'll be a machine, like a vending machine that gives you popcorn and asks you how much butter you want and is polite to you and doesn't overcharge you.
If we applied our intelligence to never having fucking people do tedious fucking bullshit work again, we could definitely eliminate probably 90% of it.
But at that point, you'd have to pay people something, or at
At
least
that
provide
point,
them
Andrew
with
Yang
goods.
is
I mean, what if it was just like, hey, you don't like rent is no longer a thing if you don't like own a house, like you can live in these places for free, or if you want to like
not
make money, you can buy a house.
not to
And
sound
then
like
the
a
other part of it would be like, hey, like you don't have to buy food ever. Right.
not to
So if
sound
you
like
want something, like you want a car or you want a computer or you want some like a gun, you got to work for it. But like the basic needs of people, like food and clothing and shelter, are taken care of.
yeah. Well, not to sound like G-Webs, but this sounds a lot like the Star Trek future, man. Like, not to say that like there won't be money, but like you said, money won't be for shit that you need to survive
Right.
or whatever. And honestly, if we get like 3D printing technology much more advanced than it is, like even if it goes like, let's say it's 10 years in the future and it's 100 times as good, which is kind of the track it's on, to be honest, looking at it, then how many of these things could you have a machine at your house that you press a button on and you get a free one? And how is that going to change our whole fucking like future, man?
Well, and I think we're headed there, man. And I think maybe that side of the fucking powers that be seeing this potential, this inevitable future, kind of want to proactively do something about it. The problem comes when they're like duping people into getting what they want done. You know?
Yeah, I think. Oh, I think there's definitely an unseen hand that right now is going. You know, it, whatever they think is bullshit. Whatever I think is right, and I'm guiding us towards that. I'm just worried about where that could be, and if that hand is like someone like me, well then yay. But if it's someone like I don't know Hillary Clinton, it's probably really bad. It's gonna be a bad time.
Well, if you have the information person in control and you see this future coming and you see the solution to the problem and you don't think that people are going to go along with it, and so you're just going to force people to go along with it, that's the wrong way. I think people are intelligent enough on the mass scale to understand a problem and react to it in an appropriate manner if they're given full access to the relevant information that's needed to make a correct decision, right? And since you have all these secret programs and secret information and secrets going on, that you can't tell people the truth about what's going on. So now you're forced into a position where you have to dupe people into doing the right thing. And so you
Well,
fundamentally lost my trust, and therefore I'm going to fight against what you're going to try to do. Me and a
not
whole
to
lot of
open
other
up,
people.
so not to open up a new rabbit hole, but what has happened in the last like year with the whole alien thing, man? Like they're
Oh
pretty
yeah.
much coming out and there are extraterrestrial life forms, and why in the fuck would they be saying that unless it's about to become public knowledge?
What
And
if
what
like
if the
now
unseen
it's the
hand
time?
is some fucking alien intelligence going, "Hey, the way you guys do shit is fucked up. Here's how you do shit." Where everyone can be free and have all this free shit. Like that's a not a ridiculous a possibility as it was like years ago. You know what I mean? Like some of the shit that's come out.
I have heard conspiracy theorists who talk about agenda being used as a tool to control people. Like they have methods of projecting what look like alien craft into the sky using like
Yeah,
lasers and whatever fucking techniques they have, right? So if you could fool people, like they did this in Desert Storm, right?
yeah.
That's why you'd see all the like walking away from their tanks, laying down their guns, because they had the voice of Allah come and tell them to give up. Like they have this fucking technology to do it, and that's something that most people don't know about right there. That's also been
Well,
fucking
yeah.
proven and confirmed. Like they have the technology to put the voice of God to your head if they want to. So,
Dude, they have
like for
more
them
than that,
thinking
man.
an alien invasion or something, to like get their way and like control people, I wouldn't put it past them. Like they have.
But I've only heard about like bits and pieces from different pieces of fucking the U.S. government or DARPA that occasionally leak shit out, and what I hear and see terrifies me because some of the shit that they have technology wise is literally science fiction, like that voice of God shit, like you were talking about. All the fucking crowd control shit they've ever tried to develop, all this non lethal shit to control mass groups of people is spooky as shit. They can make them
Oh
shit
yeah.
their pants or fucking have seizures or do a lot of other shit.
Well,
Like,
they
real
have
hard to
already
riot
proven that.
here.
they've proven that using nothing but like the frequency of the flicker rate of your TV, they can influence your mood. So they can make you either like calm down or more aggravated, or some say like it will make you want to go out and shop and spend money. Like they can control that through the flicker rate on the TV. So just using like a slightly different hertz rate, it affects your brain in a way that subconsciously makes you either like anxious and angry, or like calm and passive, or like wanting to go out and spend money, for as an example. And that's just something that they again have already admitted to that they do and have done and have the technology to do.
Man,
Imagine the things that they haven't admitted to.
You realize how strange this conversation is now in the light of the things that have happened over the last year, like the fucking U.S. Navy admitting UFOs are real and Jeffrey Epstein killing himself and all this conspiracy shit that used to be like, oh, you're a crazy nut job. And now I'm like, well, I have to at least consider some of these possibilities based on the given information that we're being presented with.
Right. And why do you think I do the gay frog chat, man? Because I've been like interested in this shit for years, and as time has gone on, it's become more apparent that it's real.
I always listen to the conspiracy theories for the same reason that Tommy Lee Jones always reads the fucking tabloids, the Men in Black. It's the best investigative journalism on the planet. Like, fucking conspiracy theorists look into shit better than anyone you fucking know of. They get to know every fucking detail of it, whether it's real or not. So if one of them does end up being real, who should you be listening to about that shit? Probably the crazy dude who does nothing but go, the aliens are coming to steal our Wi-Fi.
Right. Well, that being said, man, I will say that I have heard from multiple people over the last 2 weeks that they are not getting notifications when I go live from my channel. That like this last gay frog chat got about a third of the views of other gay frog chats. I think that YouTube, for whatever reason, has identified my channel as something to suppress, and that makes me upset.
Yeah, well, like, welcome to the club. I don't think any of my videos have ever not been suppressed. Let's see,
I suppose, man, but it's disheartening when you put all this work and effort into it and you see other people's channels blowing up who are talking about bubblegum and bullshit, It's like, come on, dude. Like, I'm actually like talking about things that matter in a way that is an attempt at like communication, right? Like, is what I'm ultimately trying to do, is have a conversation. And to feel like I'm having some success at it, and then also at the same time see the fucking algorithm and the technology strike my shit down, fucking narrative that they want to propose. It sucks.
Yeah.
Like, what do we do, man? Is there another YouTube coming? We've been talking about it for years, but it hasn't materialized.
I don't know. When it comes to all of this conspiracy shit, though, like, I'm being forced to take a lot of things that I used to think were maybe whatever kind of jokes a little bit more seriously. But at the same time, it's like I'm only doing that because things have gotten so weird that obviously the future is not going to be normal or based on what happened in the past. It's going to be this crazy ass shit that we keep seeing. So I'm looking to the conspiracy theories almost as, okay, where's this headed next? Because I'm seeing aliens.
I think more and more and more people are starting to take the pill. For the longest time, the blue pill was the better option because the blue pill was safe for the family. The blue pill was better financially. The blue pill, all these other, but now it's gotten to the point where like reality is staring you in the face, and they're like, "Here, do you want to take this pill to not see the monsters?" It's like, no, bitch, I want to see the fucking monsters.
Well, it's like, well, Jeffrey Epstein just committed suicide by having someone strangle him from behind. So,
Yeah, did you see the fucking, like, his neck had like that fucking black line across it? Like, someone fucking took a wire cord and like wrapped him tight and squeezed until he didn't move anymore. Like, that is not from a fucking bed sheet. I don't care what the fuck anybody says.
And like, honestly, like, that Jeffrey Epstein shit, as ridiculous as that whole thing fucking is, and the pedophile cult and all the rest of that shit, if he fucking was offed by somebody to hide what he knew, then that confirms everything they ever said about him, in my mind, which then confirms half of everything that every conspiracy theorist has ever said.
Well, if you
have
wanted to
to take half
control
of it at
people
least.
in positions of power, like you want to exert control over people in positions of power, what better way than to have dirt on them? And what better dirt to have on them than the one thing that no one would want anyone else to know about if they were into it, which is fucking
Dude,
child
when
abuse,
when
right?
I fucking post a meme on Instagram that is about killing massive groups of people, I get some flack for that. When that group of people is pedophiles, I get zero flack for that. What does that tell you about the
Right.
American populace or whatever? You know, like they're not going to put up with fucking pedophiles and shit, and that's why they picked that one thing, because that's the thing you can always burn somebody with, always.
Right, because I don't think any society, well, not in history, but you got the Greeks and the Romans, but pretty much it's universally accepted that fucking kids are off limits for that shit. You know, like it's not cool. They're
Yeah.
not old enough. They don't have the cognitive ability to fucking deal with it, become the actualized human as an adult child. Like it's not cool. So therefore, and then people have that protective instinct over their own children, and then rise that into other people's children and protect them through proxy, right? Like if you see someone's kid on the street getting hurt, I don't care if it's not my kid. I'm gonna go fucking help. You know?
Well, yeah, it's like if you saw a grown man slap a fucking 3-year-old kid, regardless of fucking whose kid it was, you would fucking say something about it. Like,
Well,
I don't
especially if
know.
it was obvious that it wasn't their kid. Like if it was like
Or, well, no, I'm talking
a hit
about like
kid or something.
if I saw you backhand your fucking child who was like under the age of 5, you and I would have words. You and I might get into a fucking fight, to be honest. Like, I don't care. You're not fucking gonna fucking hit a kid like that in front of me.
Right. Or like punch a child. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Like,
I
it's
don't know,
one
but
thing
there's a
like
line
your
there.
kid and you're spanking that kid, okay. But like, if you're fucking using a closed fist or the back of your hand to fucking beat a small child, and fuck no, I'm not gonna fucking sit for that.
That being
I don't
said,
know.
times have changed because when I was a kid, I used to get beat with the fucking the broomstick, and then my
Yeah.
mom she would turn her ring around because it had this big old rock on it. But to be honest, I only like got the ring hand when I did something real bad, and I was more afraid of my dad anyway because he was a fucking gorilla.
I don't know. This whole situation is so fucked up.
Dude, I mean,
think
how much is this going to affect us in the years to come? Like, I don't think there's any escaping the systemic fucking like butterfly effect fucking effects that this is going to have on things in the future that we can't even predict right now.
this is my prediction. I think as a result of this and the fact that we aren't going to be having any way to fucking get rid of this shit until 2021 or 2022, that this is going to change our entire society, because now everyone is probably going to be thinking more like me, where it's like, well, since we're not making money, we're going to spend as little money as possible, and we're going to go get a tiny house, and we're not going to fucking have a big ass SUV that guzzles gas. We're going to have some, electric miracle car that's free to drive and all this other shit. Like, all this hippy dippy shit is also a lot of this, like, fucking living off grid sort of shit. The two worlds are really close to one another. And I'm guessing that the general public, after several years of this, are going to be a lot more, hey, let's be self sufficient. I'm hoping. That's what I hope happens.
Well, I think a lot more people are not going to like waste money on going out to eat, right? Like when like money's limited, right? And you're afraid about your losing your job and like your futures and stuff. You're not going to be like, hey, let's go celebrate and spend $300 on dinner at this place. So
I was just talking to my uncle earlier, and he's like, I usually go out to eat because it's cheaper than buying groceries. And I had to hold my tongue from going, you are such a fucking moron, because it is not cheaper to always go out to eat, even fast food, than it is to buy fucking groceries. Like, I can eat at home for next to nothing, some chicken and some rice. It's like a couple dollars a day or whatever. And anytime you go out, you're going to spend $5 to $10 on the cheapest possible fucking meal ever.
yeah,
3 times a day.
I can feed me and my 2 kids for an entire day for easily for $20. Like if I just like,
Yeah.
don't go extravagant on stuff,
Well, that's
like it's not even that hard.
snacks and everything, man. That's like wanting for
Right.
nothing.
Versus we all go out to breakfast. That's $30. Right.
Yeah.
So we're already $10 over what we spent on breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
You still got lunch and dinner to go.
Yep,
Like groceries are
exactly.
so much cheaper.
But I think a lot of people are going to figure that out. They're going to figure out how to cook, and then they're going to be like, well, shit, I guess I don't need to go out to eat anymore.
What
So
kills me?
places that have closed are going to stay closed, is what I was going to say.
Yeah. What kills me is that, like, you and I both watch Townsend, so I know that you know this too. There's so much shit that you can make with next to nothing, with no skill involved whatsoever from the 1700s or whatever, that, like, no one knows how to make that shit anymore. Like, they used to just take flour, water, and salt, mix it into a thing, and bake it on a campfire and eat it. That was a thing.
Yeah, or like hardtack bread or fucking like.
I'm not saying like we should go
soup. This guy he just put like 6 onions in a boiling pot of water and boiled it down until it was brown, and then they were like onion soup.
Yeah, like
we'll add some salt and nutmeg.
Cooking food is not rocket science. I'm not saying you should go join the 1700s cooking club or some shit like that, but like know how to do some basic shit with basic ingredients, and like know maybe how to run a Dutch oven on a campfire, because you can go do that anywhere at any time.
I really like the episode about building a earthen oven. Have you seen that one?
Yeah, I've seen that, but I can't talk myself into doing that much work for an oven.
Well, I mean, if shit got bad, right, the lights are out, you can just get some clay, some straw, and some sand with some water, mix it all together, make a mound, cover the mound with the clay and sand mixture, wait till it dries, scoop out the mound, build a fire in there. You can cook bread, you can make whatever you want. Oh, am I?
Yeah, but I agree that would be a good thing or whatever. But I guess for me, like what I like to look at the Townsend stuff as is like, well, you are an idiot and know nothing about cooking, so this is the most basic recipe ever. And if you could do this and even sort of add a couple of modern things to it, it's probably not bad. You know what I mean? And if they could cook it in like 1900 on a campfire, then you can certainly cook it now.
Yeah, there's all kinds of weird stuff that like they would make. They take like an apple, right, and then you make a mixture of flour and water and make like dough, and then you cover the apple in the dough, and then wrap that in a cloth, and then put it in a pot of boiling water for like an hour, and then you've got bread pudding.
Yeah.
Oh my god, dude! Like that sounds so good. Like I want to do that right now.
Well, that's the other thing is I've tried a bunch of these recipes, and some of them were even stuff that people would be like, "Oh, I don't know if I want to eat that or whatever," and they're all fucking good, and they're made with next to nothing. Like you said, they had nutmeg. They used nutmeg and everything because it was one of the cheap spices they had.
Right.
And like, if you have access to like sriracha and soy sauce and like all this other modern shit that they didn't have access to, like, you can make better tasting shit than they had for sure.
Yep. The other problem is like preserving food, right? Like no one knows how to do that. Like no one can take like a bunch of fish that they catch and like gut them and clean them and like salt them and put them out in the sun so that they're dry out and they're preserved forever, right? Like no one knows how to like take a slab of pork and turn it into bacon, you know?
Yeah. What kills me is like on Townsend's, everything that they do about preserving food is like, oh, that's sketchy, because it's like before people knew anything about anything. So it's always like, we're taking some meat and rubbing salt in it and putting it into a jar. And I'm like, I wouldn't have thought that would have worked, because like now we would can shit and like it's a totally different process or whatever. But it's amazing what you can get away with doing.
Yeah, like potted meat. Have you seen that one where they it's like a jar and they take the meat and heat it up super hot and then cover it with a layer of fat. So when it cools down, your fat links. It's like, geez, man.
That's a really early attempt at canning, basically.
Yeah.
Because when you do canning at home, all you do is take a mason jar, fill it full of whatever you're going to fucking can, and either water or vinegar or whatever you're canning it in. and you seal the top, and then you boil the thing so that it kills off any bad bacteria in it, and then it's shelf stable. It's super easy.
Right, or like a pressure cooker. That's how you do it. Like you put
You do that too.
You put it in the pressure cooker with the lid off, and then you put the lid on as soon as you take it out of the pressure cooker.
Yeah. Have you ever looked into like pasteurizing? It's the same fucking process to do canning. It's the same technology that allowed for both. It's got to heat it up to like
these are the things that make the difference between the Great Depression or the Civil War and now. Like all these technologies that we have, who would have thought back then that you could like dig up like the sludge from dinosaurs that lived 60 million years ago and put it inside of an iron beast that carries more weight than a horse could across the fucking country at like 70 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Like no one was thinking that shit. We have all that today. Maybe we should implement it in a way that life actually easier for people rather than harder.
That's kind of my point with like where this is going. I'm not sure necessarily that change is bad, but change can be bad, and you should be prepared for it. And it looks like we are headed towards some sort of weird Star Trek future at breakneck pace. Whether it's an apocalyptic future or a utopian one, I don't know.
I think the name of the chat should be something like "Getting Nutty and High" or like with nut. Because we're just kind of having.
Also, anyone watching this should know that like Honda and I are probably both high as shit, right?
Yeah, I'm coughing because of coronavirus.
Yeah. So, like, you're listening to high conspiracy theorists talk about Townsend's. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like, it's not planned out. We're just going where the conversation takes us. But I think it's all within the realm of like, holy fuck, what's going on right now? What related subjects are
gotten to me is if you look at Townsend's and their subscribers and their popularity, like obviously there are some people into 17th century cooking, but I'm guessing there's a lot more people like you and me that are like kind of interested in it and looking at it like, oh, I'm learning shit that might help me in the future when we have to cook on a campfire.
Well, and that's kind of my point is like, yeah, they're like showing you how to do these things, but how many people are actually going to build a fire in the backyard and try it out? Like probably not very many. And there's probably some things that you didn't think about when you were like conceptually doing it that in reality are going to trip you up,
The stuff that I tried, I always cooked in a modern kitchen, but I've cooked over a campfire before, and I know some of the shit that goes along with that. So it's like it wouldn't be that hard to fucking combine the two.
Right. And that being said, I've got a fucking propane burner sitting right next to me with 4 cans of propane.
Yeah, I've got
a while before I've
got 100 pounds. I've got 100 pounds of propane that I bought just the other day for the apocalypse.
Yep, you got way more than I do. Well, I mean,
I use it for forging and shit. So I was like,
if you're using it sparingly, though, like if like shit really went bad, like you have enough propane for fucking a long ass time. Like you could boil water, take baths, and clean yourself. You could boil water to like fucking cook and stuff like that. You could use it to heat up a room in your house for a really long time if you're just like trickle fucking, using it. Yeah.
Sorry, I don't remember what I was going to say. If I was using it to cook food with, I have enough propane for probably a fucking year. But like forging or whatever, I have enough for 5 straight days of running the propane forge, 24/7.
Right, which is a shit ton of propane, right?
Yeah. It uses way more. So that's why I'm sort of prepared wise on propane because like if I don't forge, then I have like a fucking year, I do need a propane forge, though I don't have one.
Are you gonna make a Honda was right knife? Is that what you're gonna do instead of $5?
Sure.
You got to like make it somehow like
make it in Honda colors, and then I will engrave on the side of it that you were correct.
All right, that's actually worth way more to me than $5. Well, because I mean, like you can write about something down the week that it happens, and then people like fucking like don't acknowledge it and don't apologize for anything that they said that was like, which you're right about this part though. It's like, well, god damn it, dude, I was like 90% right. I don't know.
Well,
Not talking
like,
about anyone specific, don't worry.
My thing with the whole being right thing or whatever, like the week when we made that bet, my personal triggers had not been tripped yet, I guess, for like, hey, this is probably going to be really bad. It was still like, I don't know where this is going, kind of, you know?
Right.
And then I saw at the same time a few things happen all at the same time. And then I got to looking at like all of the people that were freaking out about this. And I'm like, well, North Korea and South Korea don't agree on much ever. And both of them are agreeing that this is a bad thing and that it's killing people in their countries. I'm like, so it's not some fucking made up bullshit to fucking get Trump out of office, which is my first thought. That this is like, you know, how many times have we had like the H1N1 or SARS or whatever that they're like, oh my God, Chinese cancer's going to kill us. Oh my God, run for the hills. And then like it never even makes it to the U.S. So I was one of those.
You remember last night on the chat how we were talking about how Japan was one of the first countries to confirm that the virus was in their country, and they haven't shut anything down except for a couple schools, and they're still doing fine. Remember that whole part?
Yeah, that's where we could be right now.
Well, what I discovered about it last night after we were done playing game, Corbett Report, who's another kind of conspiracy-minded guy that I listen to, who lives in Japan. And what he was saying is that, in fact, there probably is a huge problem that's going to be made much worse by the fact that the Japanese government is not responding because they're trying to hold on to the fucking dream of there being a 2020 Olympics in Tokyo.
Okay. So they're just not reacting the same as everybody else. The same shit's happening there.
Right. Well, what they're doing is holding out, trying to like show the world that, hey, there's not a problem here. We can still have the Olympics because of how much money that's going to bring to our economy and all that shit.
Yeah. Part of the thing in Japan is also Japan is going to be way less affected by this than us, I would think, just based on their society and the way they do things and a lot of that sort of thing. Like, they're not fucking, I guess they are in big crowds or whatever a lot, and that would be bad. But, like, they are even more so, like, modernized than us. Like, they could fucking sit in their fucking apartment and play video games and get money from the government for forever over there, probably, if they really had to.
Well, what I'm saying is, my prediction is that because Japan has been ignoring this, holding out hope that they're going to hold on to the Olympics, which everyone knows is probably going to be canceled at this point, they've put themselves as a society in a position where they probably spread this to the point where they can't ignore it, right? Like, you can ignore reality, but you cannot ignore the consequences of ignoring reality. Like, you can sit on the train tracks and ignore the fact that you're on train tracks, but when a train comes by and hits you and kills you, like, you're going to have to deal with that reality, right? I think that the train's coming.
Warsaw Patriot, I never said Japan was anything like the U.S. I said that they were complete and total opposites, and that's why it's going to be different. Like, I don't know what you misunderstood about what I said, but anyway, Japan has a much more advanced medical system than us too, which is going to help them. And that's just based on the amount of money they pour into it more than anything else.
Right, but the things that they have done up to this point have not flattened the infection curve, which we were talking about last night. When you have that hospitalization rate as high as it is, they're going to completely swamp their fucking medical system as good as it is, right?
Well, we
and they're
will
going to
see
end up in the same position as North Korea, right? I think that's what's going to happen. That's my prediction.
Well, if you're right, then you're right or whatever. But what I'm saying is it
then
could
you owe
go
me two knives. Then you owe me two knives.
But if it does go that way, okay. But it also could go that, you know, we are fucking doing a bunch of stupid shit that we don't really have to do, and that them having a slightly better fucking medical system than us as far as like beds per fucking people or whatever is going to allow them to just weather through this naturally, and like it's never even going to be a big deal in Japan. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it could happen.
I hope you're right, man, because that's a lot of people over there, and I actually happen to like Japan, so I don't know. I mean, I know that we weren't really friends with each other not too long ago, but
I wonder what the average age of Japan is and how their average health is as well, because I'm betting they're pretty healthy and they're pretty old, but that might be one good and one bad.
They're really old, actually. They're one of the oldest countries in the world because A, they live forever. Well, not forever, but
Yeah.
like just people naturally live a really long time in Japan. And B, their child birth rate has dropped off the fucking roof. And C, unlike other countries who've imported like third world people to fill the birth gap between the people who should be born and the ones that are actually born, they just haven't done anything over there. So they have like a real labor shortage on the like younger end of society, like the young kids coming up, like fucking, I don't know, man. Like they've got a weird dynamic going over there, but their average population age is actually, I could look that up real quick.
If you look at that fucking rat experiment they did a few decades back, where they put a bunch of rats in like an ideal environment, and they each had their own apartment that gave them free food and water and everything they could ever want, and then the rats ended up like all fucking like dying and committing suicide and shit and going crazy. That is the postmodern fucking society, and we are at one stage of that, and I would say that Japan is at a whole nother level of that, just based on the way their fucking society is. And the reason that their birth rate is dropping off is because of that rat society study bullshit, where they just stopped having kids. The rats they stopped mating. They just sat in their fucking apartments separate from one another and fucking died.
All right. Rank of countries from oldest to youngest. Number 1 on countries, the oldest median age of 47 years is Japan. Number 2 is a tie between Germany and Italy at 45 years. Number, I guess it would be 4, would be Greece at 44 years, Bulgaria at 44 years, and Portugal at 44 years. So they're all the same. The youngest countries, Chad and Niger at 14 years,
Wow.
the average age. Afghanistan and Angola at 16.
Those are all super young because they're fucking war zones and people are fucking dying left and right.
Right. I wonder what America's is. It's not even on the list of high end or low.
I honestly don't know. We have a lot of kids in the U.S. though. It's like we've grown 50 million people in the last little bit here.
Oh, like average age in America is 37.
Yeah, see, that's kind of where I figured we'd be, somewhere in the middle.
Average
we have a lot of babies in the last 20 years.
Average age of the world is 30.1 years. So once you're 30.1 years old, you're older than half the world. How does that make you feel?
Sorry, what did you say?
Once you are 30.1 years old, you are older than half of the planet.
Jesus Christ. That's crazy.
Yeah. So once you're 38, like me, you're just an old fucking man because I'm older than the average age of people in America.
I turned 30 this year, so I get to join you.
All right. Welcome to the back half.
We're middle-aged.
Oh, Jesus. Yep. Once you're 37, you're older than half the people in America.
See, this is kind of like my whole fucking plan in life has been to eventually get to some fucking off-grid sort of thing. Like buy some land somewhere, build a cabin, and get it to be where like the only thing you have to pay is maybe the property taxes if you fucking decide to do that, you know?
Yeah, and like the value of the property is so low that it's only a couple bucks a year, you know? Something.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing is like don't buy something super expensive or whatever. Like you can go up in somewhere in like Missouri, I know for a fact, and buy like 20 acres for like 10 grand. And it's just shit land nobody wants, not good for growing anything on or whatever. You build your fucking cabin there and get it fully off grid so that you don't ever fucking need anything ever again. You don't have rent, you don't have bills, and then you know whatever you make at your job, you have to either buy food and shit that you need with, or invest. and then you're not doing the whole rent thing anymore. And I think that all of America is probably going to be open to that sort of idea after all this shit.
I wonder what the cheapest 20 acres in the United States is.
See, I wonder that too, because it's either got to be someplace like Alabama where no one wants to live, or somewhere like up in Alaska where there's just so much land that it's just not worth a whole lot unless it's got a good view. So if you get something that doesn't have a good view and is not easily accessible, it's probably pretty cheap.
I wonder how
And then
would you
there's
measure that,
Arizona.
like cheapest per acre
Arizona
land?
and Nevada probably has some pretty cheap land too. The desert.
Per acre land in the U.S. Cheapest land for sale in the U.S. costs. Okay, here we go. Costs more than just money. What do you mean? In 2017, the first-time home buyers had it tough around the land. Blah 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 blah. Housing prices, yada yada yada.
Not the cheapest.
Fuck you, article. I don't want to read an
Well,
article.
maybe West Texas. That's true. West Texas is pretty fucking cheap. Out there by like
If you're looking at price alone, Marquette, Kansas has an offer you can't refuse. The land they're offering is so cheap, it's free.
Well, yeah, let's just count all the free ones because there's free land in Kansas, North Dakota, and I think
Lots, but you got to build a building there. Okay.
Yeah. You have to build a house with a lot of requirements.
Grenlec, Nevada, you can get land as cheap as $157 per acre.
But see, like at Nevada would have some advantages in that you could build a solar system that would like power the fucking, whatever, anything you'd want to power because of the fucking long solar days they have. But at the same time, you also don't have fucking water and other shit that you need to like live. So
I don't think a 38.1 acre, just shy of $6,000. So under $6,000, you can get just under 40 acres.
Yeah. See, that's my thing is that there are places in the U.S. where land is that cheap, where you can get 20 acres, 40 acres for less than 10 grand.
Cities like Detroit and Flint, Michigan have foreclosure lots, extremely motivated sellers who are willing to sell a lot of homes for bargain prices, particularly the 2-bed, 1-bath in Flint selling for less than $3,000.
Let's also rule out Michigan because no one wants to live in Michigan, number one. They have bad laws.
Well, plus they're living in Detroit, like the heart of the ghetto. Like, yeah, that's like a bad spot.
I mean, like, I want to live on some cheap land. I don't want to live on cheap land in a war zone. Like Angola and Chad and Niger and Afghanistan and Iraq are probably all off my list too of places to fucking live.
Well, it sounds like there's two pretty decent options. There's fucking Nevada, right? So you're in the middle of nowhere. I don't know how good that option is because you kind of have to make it on your own.
Look up the average price of that sort of shit in like Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Missouri. Because it's really cheap around here, but I don't think it's that cheap. And wouldn't you rather live somewhere that isn't the fucking desert?
Right. Cheap land in Oklahoma. How about cheapest land in Oklahoma? Vacant land, cheap land for sale in Oklahoma. Hold on. Hold. I got. Looks like it's about $1,000 an acre.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Because most of Oklahoma is semi-decent farmland too, so you would have that advantage as well.
I mean, that's like the cheapest. Most of it's like half an acre for $1,200. Here's 0.16 acres for $1,500.
Anyway, in all of these big western states, though, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, the Dakotas, Montana to a lesser degree, but even then, and other states, like all of those states have shitloads of land that nobody lives on. Some of it is farmland, I'll give you that. But like up there in like the Dakotas, like you can buy super cheap big plots of land. Like it's crazy.
How much would it cost to? Because like really, if you're going to live out in the middle of nowhere, like me anyway, right? I would need a couple of things. I would need electricity, which means setting up some sort of a solar grid for myself so that I could be self-sufficient, which means like transistors and solar cells and wires and batteries and all that shit, right? That's
Dude,
not cheap.
it's going to cost a lot. When I looked into all this shit about 5 years ago, it cost more than it does now. But the power that I was wanting to build was going to cost like, I don't know, enough to pay the electric bill for 42 years when I did the math on it.
Right. And then you throw in like, okay, I'm in the middle of nowhere. There's no like water system, right? So I got to dig a water well. So how much does it cost to dig a well? Like that's not cheap.
Well, at least 10 to 20 grand.
And then you got to look at, okay, how do I get to my land? That means I got to like build some sort of at least like a dirt road to get there, right?
Yeah. Well, this is why when you go looking for land, you think about all this shit, man. Like you think, well, how close am I to city utilities and water and shit like that? Is there road access? Yada yada yada. You don't just buy some random thing at random. Like do some research and look into this shit.
But then
Because
after you get all that, then you can think about building a fucking house. But I mean, like unless you have electricity and water, like and a way to get to it, like there's no point in even thinking about building.
You're forgetting one probably too, that you're going to want a septic system unless you just like shit in a bucket.
Right. Yeah. What do you do about you just have like a fucking like a huge septic tank that you got to pay someone like once a month to come and pump out, or you
no, like a septic system you put in the tank and whatever, and that has a cost to it, probably like $5,000 to $10,000 depending on exactly what you do. And the septic system is like your shit all goes in there, and there's a bacteria rich shit that you put in there, and it eats the fucking shit, and it like gets off gassed and turned into water and whatever. Like nothing remains. The bacteria eats it all. As creepy as that is.
Well, that's amazing. I didn't know that's how that worked.
Yeah.
I thought it just held it and like broke it down to the point where when they pumped it, it didn't fucking clog their fucking pumps.
No, like if you have some septic issues, you might have to pump it out. But as long as you don't flush anything that the bacteria can eat, which means no wet wipes and shit like that. But like toilet paper is good and shit is good. The bacteria pretty much just eats it all. And you have to I think you have to add shit to it every once in a while, but otherwise it's not that hard. Or you can go a composting toilet and like bury your shit in dirt in your own house. But I don't think that's the way anyone really wants to go.
Yeah, it's like, what if it's like the middle of the winter and you got to take a shit and you're sick and you got to like go out into the field to fucking find the outhouse to like freeze your butt cheeks to the fucking seat?
Well, that's one option. With the composting stuff they do now, it's like you have to look into it. But there's like toilets that are made to do this, and they like separate urine from shit and then mix the shit with like sawdust and like it doesn't stink. And I don't know how to fucking say it. It is an option. It's just not a very good option, I would say.
I mean, is that how you feed your garden and shit?
Yeah, like you would then make a big compost bin where you dump that shit.
See, and like that's the other thing. Like people were like, "Oh, I'll move out to the middle of nowhere and I'll just start farming." Well, really, the middle of nowhere probably has shit soil in most cases, especially here in Colorado. So if you wanted to develop a piece of the land in order to grow, you'd have to start composting and importing like manure and fucking fertilizer and shit like that, and like scraping up the land and integrating that into the soil over years before you could use it. So
honestly, that's why I would probably do the composting thing at first and then pay for the septic system when I could afford it. And by then you've got enough compost built up, you could probably start a small vegetable garden. Right. And that's all you
like if you could transform even 1 acre of land to the point where like it had good soil and you could grow. Dude, like you could grow like an acre of corn.
An acre of land would of a vegetable garden would be enough vegetables to feed probably 4 full families of people. Like that's a lot of veggies. You know, like I know people that had gardens half that size that would always be giving shit away because they had so much they couldn't eat it and no one would buy it at the farmer's market or whatever. You know?
Right. I mean, and in that case, like you're pickling, you're canning, like all that stuff comes into play, especially in like a grid down situation where you're counting on your own skills and your own land to provide you with your food and what you need. Then you need to make that last for a lot longer. And if you don't Like if you know how to grow it, but you don't know how to save it, like it's worth nothing.
Yeah. Well, that and like that's why like you would can a bunch of shit like whenever you had it or whatever. But at a certain point, you're gonna run out of cans. That's when people back in the day would have like a big corn cookout or whatever, and like they would invite everybody over, and you would eat nothing but fucking corn and maybe some shit to go with it because you grew so much extra fucking corn that you know you had enough to feed the whole town.
Yeah, but I mean, like that's why like that dry corn is good because like you can grow that shit,
Yeah.
and then you just have like dry corn on the cob hanging on the wall, and then when you
Yeah.
need to like make some tortillas or fucking whatever, you just fucking.
I'm just saying that when you have a harvest or whatever like that, like, yeah, you would can some of it or whatever, but you would also fucking eat high off the hog on that shit until it went bad.
Right.
And you would not touch the canned stuff at all. And that would actually probably about double the amount that you would get out of it because if you're just eating nothing but that shit while it's good, you know, eat it while it's there.
Dude, I've been watching this dude on YouTube on a like farming note called Cole the Corn Star. I know it sounds weird, like a porn star, but he's a corn star.
Yeah.
And he's like just this kid who's like learning how to farm from his dad. Like he's like 20, 21, something like that, you know? So like he knows a fair bit. Like he knows like way more about it than you or me. So like watching him's kind of interesting, right? And they have like a 1,500 acre farm or something like that. And like the amount of work that it takes to like get the that amount of land tilled up and that amount of land like worked over and fucking like planted and like everything that they got to do is just amazing that like that few people can bring in that much corn and soybeans that guy brings in, you know. It's like
that's part of the thing with like the farming and living off the land thing. Like if you were really gonna do this and go off grid and do all the rest of that shit, like if you were any good at hunting at all and up there in Alaska where game is plentiful, then you could probably do that, or if you're anywhere in like the Midwestern United States, you can garden like a motherfucker. I guarantee you whatever soil you have in your backyard is better than 90% of the world.
Yeah,
and
like, we've got a small garden.
You and your family could grow enough food to feed yourselves easily.
We've got a small garden, but we have to continually put like good dirt in there and mix it in.
You're in Colorado. That's totally different. I'm talking about Kansas,
the Midwest.
Oklahoma.
Yeah, dude, if you try to grow just in the dirt here, it's like you can, but the plants don't do very well. Like you really need to help them out.
Well, you're also like, not to get into it, but basically where you are is rough to grow anything because it's in the mountains. There's some shit that grows there like fucking blueberries and pine trees and shit like that. But everything else is not meant to be grown up there. And like you need something closer to sea level that has, you know, higher temperatures for longer of the year than the fucking mountains have. And there's like a billion fucking reasons why shit doesn't grow well in Colorado besides the altitude, which also affects it.
Well, if you go to the eastern plains of Colorado, Eastern Colorado has all kinds of farmland, though. Like
that's because the Continental Divide is right there, right, with the fucking mountain, or like the big, you know, push up to the mountains is in Colorado, right?
Right. Well, that's where the plains end is in Colorado.
Yeah. So that's in a whole different biosphere than where you are.
Yeah, it's not far away though.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool about where I live because like 20-minute drive, I'm in the foothills in the mountains. 20-minute drive, I'm in the plains. 20-minute drive, I'm in Colorado. Well, an hour drive, I'm in the Springs. 20-minute drive, I'm in Denver. You know, like I'm like 20 minutes away from fucking like all kinds of shit. Versus like if you live in the Midwest, it's like, yep, we're in the farmland.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think we're going to get to the point where we need to fucking farm and shit, but this is all like handy shit to know, I would say. And like, it's not rocket science. Like, I don't know that much about farming, but I know more than a lot of people just from living in fucking Oklahoma, I guess. But like, you have to know roughly when to plant crops and roughly when to harvest crops and a lot of that sort of stuff and how to take care of them. And
Well, the technology that's in like modern farming today is amazing. Like they've got these tractors that pull a fucking like acre wide fucking thing that plants rows of fucking corn in the correct depth with the correct space in between
The
them.
watering system. Look at the fucking satellite images. All those big circular green patches. That's where they have a thing that just automatically waters the whole fucking thing on a big spinning thing from the center.
And then they've got these like giant lawnmower fucking things on crack that run over the corn stalks and separate the corn from everything and like throw it into a bin and then like move it to another bin like all automatically without any. I mean, the labor's there because you're driving the thing and you're keeping your fucking your equipment good to work and all that.
At the moment, we're driving the thing, but they already have computer-driven versions of that are in the field and being used on farms. They're just not everywhere yet.
Right, where pretty much the farmer's just going to be like a mechanic.
Well, yeah, the farmer's going to be a dude in a pickup truck that goes to see what the fuck is wrong with his machine.
Right, because they break down and then you got to fix an axle or a wheel.
That is exactly why we should probably go to a system at some point that food and necessities are somewhat taken care of. Because eventually we are going to get to the point where there's one dude living out on a farm in a truck that fucking is feeding the entire country, and that dude is not going to be like a billionaire, and the company that owns that dude shouldn't be fucking making billions of dollars. You know what I mean? Like, not to be all communisty or whatever, but like the whole capitalist dynamic kind of goes away when we were all replaced by robots.
Right. Yeah, when it becomes well, especially when like robots take over things like keeping track of your finances, right? You used to have an accountant to do that. Now a robot does it quicker and better. Like lawyers are going to be gone because like law is going to be like written in a way that like computers can just do it for you. So you just like type in whatever your problem is, you know, under this form, and like it files everything for you. You don't need a lawyer, you know, like that kind of shit.
Well, that and like some things should be replaced by robots. No one should fucking have to sit on that fucking combine and drive it around a fucking cornfield if we could have a robot do it. You know what I mean?
Ironically, the only jobs that are like hard to be replaced by robots are where it takes like physical manipulation of things. No, like waiting tables, for instance. You know, like cooking food, for instance. It's hard for robots to do those things.
Well,
I think eventually they could, but
even if we get to the point where robots could cook food, it would be humans cooking food at the assistance of robots because they don't have the creative capacity to do that job. And like the waiting tables thing, they could get to the point where they could bring food on a tray or whatever, but people like a personal touch and they're never going to be able to do that. There's a bunch of shit like that.
Yeah, man. I don't know though, man. Like what jobs are robot proof?
Blacksmithing.
You hope.
Well, it's pretty well robot proof because the only people buying the shit is people that want that thing made by the human hand or whatever. Like it's like an artisan sort of thing, and that they're never going to be able to replace that. So that's one of the reasons why I do what I do. Is I picked this as a thing that I figured was probably robot proof.
Right, but they'll be able to make a million knives for fucking in like half the time with like just as much quality without that hand touch, but
right now when they make fucking a billion knives or whatever with robots, they're nothing like what I'm making. You can't get a hand forged knife without if they ever get like a C3PO forging robot, I'll be in trouble. But I think we're a long way away from that.
I don't know, man. Have you seen the fucking the war dogs, the robot war dogs, with like a machine gun instead of a head? And they can run at like 60 miles an hour.
Yeah,
they're ridiculous. Dude.
This is back to the whole creativity thing too. Like, I'm not worried about them replacing me. But like, if I was a truck driver, I would be really fucking worried about it.
Yeah, truck drivers are fucked, man. When it comes down to it, in the long run, like, there's not gonna. it's going to be the same as farmers. They won't be in the machine. There'll be some people who are at like truck stations who take care of the fucking problems with the trucks when they stop.
Yeah.
Like maybe gas them up. Like they'd have to be like a gas station / mechanic attendant.
For a while, it's going to be there's a sleeper cab in the truck with an automated fucking driving system, and you're along for the ride and are like, there to fix the truck or guard the truck if it breaks and wait for the fucking, tow truck or whatever. But like, they're not going to go, I think they're going to go from like manned to manned, but the robot's driving, and then maybe like, oh, we're going to take some of the people out, and then we're going to take all of the people out.
What was the movie where like the trucks drove across the country from one spot to another with no one in them, and they like hijacked one and fucking rode in the back? I can't remember.
I don't remember.
It was some like dystopic future, like Mad Max kind of style, but I don't know. I don't think it was Mad Max. But yeah, I mean, like that's coming, dude. Like, there's going to be like even the dock workers, right? Like the people who load and unload the trucks.
Well, imagine when we have, the loading mech thing from Alien.
Right.
That is a robot that does itself. Like, why would you ever need a forklift driver if you had that thing?
Well, you just have a forklift with like eyeballs and a machine.
Hey, don't steal my dream of seeing the fucking walking one. I want the walking forklift. Damn it.
Why make it more complicated? We already have wheels.
Because it's cool that it can walk. Duh.
Okay. Well, I guess it helps you fight the alien queen.
Exactly.
It would be a lot harder to do that with a forklift.
Actually, it probably would have been way easier with a forklift because you would have been able to move better.
Yeah, you run the bitch over.
Yeah, you run the bitch over with the tines out.
Have you seen the off-road forklifts that they have?
No, but that's fucking cool though.
Yeah, they've just got like big fucking mutter tires on them that are meant to go and like carry pallets around on job sites in the dirt and shit.
I've seen like the boom lift ones, but
yeah, they have those too.
Forklift. Because like the boom lift with forks on it, you know what I'm talking about, where it's like a bigger forklift, basically.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I mean, I used to work construction for about 2 years, and that's all we did. It was like working in a giant sandbox with all those like fucking like the fucking machines that you play with in the sandbox when you're a little kid. Yeah. Like we just got to do that as adults with the real thing. It was kind of cool.
See, like that would actually, if you could be like a heavy equipment operator, I think that would be pretty fun. But that's another job that is not robot proof.
Well, that's a job that's really, really, really hard on your body, dude. Like most people don't think about how much you get banged around inside the cab of that fucking thing.
And vibrated from the fucking engine and all the rest of that, to just being shaken lightly for extended periods of time is not good for you or your brain.
Right. And it gives you a headache by the end of the day, and like your body hurts, and like I have back problems from doing it. Like to this day, my back fucking still kind of hurts from that job, and I can trace it back to a specific day that something happened, like I don't know, just one of those things. But yeah, like the hours are crazy too, because we would do 12-hour shifts Monday through Friday, and then an 8-hour shift on Saturday, Sunday off. So
a lot of work.
Yeah, it's almost 70 hours a week. And every Sunday, like I would sleep as much as I could. I'd sleep in as much as I could on Sunday. And then like I was with my ex at the time, like I'd wake up and we'd go to the store and do things and be with the kids and shit like that.
Yeah.
And every Sunday I woke up, I was more tired than the Sunday before when I woke up. So like I was just continually like burning myself down to the point where like I felt like stupid, dude. Like, cause like, when you're like really, really fucking tired and you can't think of words, I was just continually in that state of just like, I can't even fucking think right now,
Yeah.
And it took like months after I like quit that job before I felt like rested again. Like it took a really long time. I think that job aged me a lot. So it's not really a fun job.
So back to the whole robot future thing. Like, do you think it will become necessary to have some sort of universal basic income if all of this shit that we're talking about comes to pass? Or do you think people will figure it out and we'll have jobs doing something else?
I mean, with the amount of people that there are on the planet and how many of the necessities that people would trade money for in like in a financial transaction for, there's not enough jobs, I don't think. Like, we're going to find new jobs. There's going to be some new areas of innovation that can only be filled by humans. I agree with that. But the number of jobs that are being replaced by robots will not be like replaced by fucking new
That's
jobs.
my whole thought too, man. With the fucking sheer number of people that we have now, much less 20 years from now when it's grown exponentially as it is doing. Like, we get more people every year. This whole coronavirus might put a dent in that. We'll talk about that.
But I mean, if you look at like the Bilderberg Group and like the fucking Council on Foreign Relations and the Codex Alimentarius and the fucking Agenda 21 shit, like they're all talking about depopulation for exactly the reasons that you're talking about, right? That the number of people who are needed to operate the things that are required for life to be sustained in a good way on the planet is far less than the number of people that there actually are, and something needs to be done about it. And that's what they've ultimately said. And that's why I'm looking out for things like pandemics, like in my thinking traditionally, like I always thought it would be a pandemic.
Honestly, I think some depopulation, I'm not going to say it's necessary, but at least we should try to stem the fucking increase. Like,
well, see, the problem with that is when you say that to people,
I'm not saying China's one child policy or whatever, but that's where it would fucking end up. And then I'm against that. So I'm really kind of against the whole thing. But at the same time, I see where their mind is, I guess.
Well, when you say something like that, the only people who are intelligent enough to listen to that and understand it and agree with it and maybe implement it in their lives are the kind of people who should be having children, because the ones that don't understand that and like don't have the mental capacity to understand it have like 10 children. And so you get this dystopic fucking dysgenics that happens where instead of advancing our fucking our population, our fucking species, we're actually
look at my own fucking family on this shit. My two dipshit fucking cousins of chicks, and they both got knocked up before they were fucking like 19, and have had a couple of kids each, and are on fucking welfare and are pieces of shits and whatever. I'm not planning on having children, and well, I'm fine.
Right. And so what you have is the explosion of third world populations who have a general lower IQ on average, right? And then you have like first world populations with a generally higher IQ having a lower birth rate. And then the human population as a whole on average, the IQ drops. So I think that's dysgenics. That's not a good thing to tout, is like, hey, don't have kids, or that we need less people.
I honestly think if we are trying to look at this as like where the fucking planet's going and we're going to try to do eugenics or some shit, getting people who are fucking retarded to either have one kid instead of 20 or have no kids wouldn't be bad for the planet. I don't think it's fucking a good thing to even fucking be like talking about this shit really in some ways, because like,
well, it's Hitlerian, dude. I mean, like eugenics itself is something that
the idea of this, because I would rather people be free to do what they want to do. And like, if you want to have 20 kids and you die of starvation, well, that's what happens to you. There's no welfare. Like in my way of thinking, if you did stupid shit, you and your kids would probably fucking die, and that would sort things out real fast.
Well, most people don't realize that the eugenics movement that led to Nazis implementing fucking crazy shit during World War II, that movement was started in the United States. Like Hitler was a fan of the eugenics movement in the United States and wrote about it. And the eugenics movement itself in the United States were fans of Hitler and the Nazis.
Well, that, and eventually superior genetics would breed superior ambition, and then Khan would take over the planet. And then he would eventually get frozen in time and have to fight Kirk, and it'd be a whole thing. And we can just avoid that by not having eugenics.
And then you fly away on a spaceship and then find a new planet and then find that it's actually ruled by apes. And then you like walk on the beach and find the fucking Statue of Liberty and scream, "You bastards." Yeah.
Damn dirty apes.
Excuse me. Sorry. Need to hit the cough button. So yeah, are we gonna try to do a stream later where we play some video games?
Yeah, I guess on your channel, hey?
Yes,
You do the
yes.
video game.
If we can get Matt in, that'd be
Yeah.
cool.
His
Speaking of which,
channel is the Beard 720 at gayfrogs.com. That's gayfrogs.com.
it's actually eHonda 720 on YouTube.com. I don't have a website.
Oh.
I do have a Patreon, but I'm not gonna fucking talk about that here.
Well, honestly, like, okay, I want to talk about Patreon for a minute because, like, I don't have a Patreon because I always feel that I do not put forth anything that is worth anyone's money. I've always felt that way. Maybe that's just my own self-deprecating sense of shit that I do. So as a result, like, I don't have a Patreon. I don't contribute to other people's Patreon. Like, I think I sent $10 to Mac once on Patreon, and that was to get a fucking discount code thing. That wasn't even like whatever, but I do like his channel. So,
Well, I did lose my job this last week, but I did pick up 3 Patreon subscribers in the same week. So net
well,
gain? I don't know.
well, see, like you're doing more of like a consistent show on your channel, and like I think that's a totally different thing than like I post 20-minute videos that are of interest to no one but me.
I mean, obviously they're of interest to somebody because some of your videos got a lot of views on them. You know, like your
Well, like
what was it? Your
the
SD9 VE versus Smith and Wesson M&P.
yeah, that did get a lot of views. But like I said, the gun reviews, yeah, because people search for those and whatever. But like this thing, I don't think anyone's going to watch this. But if someone does, great. And part of the reason I do like half of the stuff I do is because eventually they are going to take all of the shit that anyone's ever put on the internet, all of it, whether it's on Twitter or Instagram or YouTube or wherever, and they're going to use that to build an AI. And if I have contributed a significant amount of shit to YouTube and Instagram and wherever that has my ideas behind it and whatever, then maybe the AI will fucking have a little bit of me in it.
I think the AI will have a whole section of its brain that's called the gay frog.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, think about all of the Alex Jones shit mixed with all of our shit in the fucking AI. I'm just, I'm hoping it comes out like waving a fucking Gadsden flag and saying shall not be infringed.
I don't know. It depends on, I think, what the AI ends up becoming, right? If it's like a self-interested, not interested in humans, like going its own way, get off the planet fucking kind of AI, then I think our little ramblings about the Second Amendment won't matter much to it, right? But if
That's
it's like
true.
very interested in humans and whether it's to control us or to benefit us, I think it will be very interested in the things that we've had to say, right?
Well, I think, yet again, like you said, it's 2 routes. Either it's, Dr. Manhattan style, bye, bitches, I'm out of here. I'm going to go be a god on Mars or whatever. Or it's like you said, it's interested in humans and studies us, and it fucking eventually finds the shit that I've written on Instagram and shit, or said on here on YouTube, or any of the fucking live chats we've ever had with fucking Matt. Like, all of that shit is going to become a part of it in some way, and I hope that makes it for the better, or more to my liking, at least. It's like if you had a child that you were interacting with. Like
more than likely, though, I think we just made the AI that's eventually going to be used to hunt us down more fucking effective.
Possibly.
I mean, I don't know, man. AI is kind of a scary thing because, again,
the AI killing us is an inevitability, though.
Well, again, it's one of those things. It's going to go whatever way it's going to go once it has control, right? Once it has control over its own like thoughts and actions, it is now beyond fucking humans' ability to. And I don't know, maybe they build some sort of like a off button or whatever, just in case it goes fucking full Terminator.
Do you think that the powers that be, the invisible hand, so to speak, behind all of this shit, are worried about the fucking stupid governments of our planet eventually making AIs in competition with each other and destroying ourselves? and they're going for some sort of Star Trek one world fucking socialist thing where everyone has free money and no one has to worry about shit anymore, because that way we will stop pouring money into fucking developing AIs that are eventually going to kill the planet. And like what they're doing may be evil, but it's like the Emperor Palpatine thing. Like he was always fucking building up the defenses of the fucking galaxy to fight some outside force. Like
to fight the Zinj Empire that was coming from the neighboring galaxy and found a way to fucking cross the fucking void. Right.
Like maybe even though they're evil fucks, maybe they know more than us about something. I don't know.
Right. Which goes back to an earlier point of like, hey, stop trying to trick us into the fucking thing that you want us to do. Just tell us what the fuck's going on. Let us fucking make the right decision.
Like, honestly, I agree. Just tell us what the fuck is going on. Let us vote it out. And if we vote to destroy ourselves, then I'll be fucking Daffy Duck at the head of that fucking ship, fucking piloting us into the fucking iceberg. I don't care.
Like, what do you think it could be that would be so bad that if they told us it would be like the end of society?
I think the alien thing would be pretty bad, but wouldn't end society. I think if they revealed everything that we don't know, I think that would probably be bad enough to end society, because like you and I see pieces of it and it fucking scares the fuck out of us, I assume.
See, I think that there's things out there that they don't want people to know about because they think they might freak out about it, but in reality, they probably wouldn't. And I think the majority of the secrets that they keep are only to protect themselves from society's wrath if they found out about what was happening. Like, for instance, did you see the story about the senators who were selling their stocks in light of the coronavirus before it hit the markets?
That's such bullshit, but yes,
and reinvesting it in companies that are like takeout orders and fucking,
companies,
yeah, exactly.
Fucking jackasses.
Exactly, dude. I mean, they fucking knew and they are benefiting from this, and they lied to us at the time that they were selling their own stocks and buying something else.
And to be clear, those people are not the fucking people I'm talking about the unseen hand or whatever. Those people work for those people, the unseen people. Like, no senator or congressman, I think, even fucking knows what's going on. I think each one of them is like a cog in a machine. People be like, well, no one could keep this level of secret or whatever. Well, no one knows the full thing. Like, if you want to keep something truly secret, there's a handful of people at the top that know the full picture, and it's maybe 6 people max. Everybody else knows their part, and it's compartmentalized to the fact that, like, all I know that I'm doing is fucking spreading coronavirus panic. That's all I know that I'm doing. I don't know how it applies to the fact that we're about to tell people they're space aliens.
Well, then you look at things like Operation Mockingbird, right? Like the whole CIA infiltration into the media back in the 70s, which has been replaced now with Project Prism, which integrates technology into that as well. Like, the shit's baked into the fucking cake, dude. Like, they are in the fucking media from the beginning, feeding us media lies from the beginning whenever it suits the narrative of the powers that be, or should not be, I should say.
Well, you see, the way that works, though, is they don't fucking have assets in the news media. They don't have fucking, a CIA, like CNN or whatever. Like, they have a bunch of guys that are spooky fucks that go up to people and go, here's 10 grand, you're going to say this, and if you don't say this, then you're going to go to talk to my friend over there who's going to have you have a heart attack. And if you ever tell anyone about any of this, then my friend over there is going to make you have a heart attack.
It's not journalism. Like, what they're doing is not journalism. What they're doing is taking marching orders from people above them and reading fucking cards that are in front of them. They're more concerned about, like, making sure that their dress is just right and their makeup's done right and the lighting's right and the camera's at the right angle and the fucking teleprompter is clear.
All I'm saying is, once you have those people in place and they're hunting for news, all you have to do is leak this shit at them and tell them what to say, and they'll say it.
Well, and then you throw in, like, the current situation that they're in right now, which is the media has basically been shown to be frauds and they're dying, right? And they're, like, sensationalizing anything that they possibly can so that they can get more clicks onto their website or their things so that they can continue to make money. So anything that comes along, you can guarantee they're going to talk about.
The thing they're scared the fuck about right now is the fact that the people watching this, all 6 of them or whatever, would rather get their news from you and I or Tim Pool or some other jackass on YouTube than them.
Well, because at least if we're wrong,
if
it's because we're wrong, like genuinely. It's not like there's some fucking ideological strain behind what we're saying, or some bent that we're trying to put on something, or is, what do they call it? Fucking spin. They put spin on things, so they take the facts and they spin them in a way that makes it sound like we're not doing that. We're just talking about facts, I guess, from an ideological perception that, hey, the government might be lying to you, and the media is probably not really your friend, right?
I honestly have thought some of this shit for so long. I can't not think about things from the viewpoint of the government may be lying or is likely lying, or that there's more going on that we don't see, because I've seen too much shit in my life that was done by the U.S. government that no one ever fucking knows anything about.
Yeah, and if you talk about it, they'll come and get you, right? I mean, in too much detail.
Well, I don't know about that, but it's not common knowledge and shit. Like, the U.S. government does shit every day that you don't fucking know about. Nobody knows about. Like, I guarantee you, at one point, the CIA was more people that were there fucking to sell drugs and shit than would actually do the CIA shit. And it's not like, oh, well, the CIA was selling drugs. No, they had like this parasitic thing inside of them that they fucking grew to shuffle some money around, and then they decided to keep making money, I think, on the side. So it's not really like, oh, the CIA was fucking selling drugs. The CIA started selling drugs to do something else, and then it kind of went awry, is my guess, if I had to guess.
Well, that was the whole Iran-Contra affair that happened, right?
And the Mena, Arkansas shit, and the thing with the Clintons.
Right, which is why the Clintons were protected in the first place, because they could spill the beans on all the people with the power in the intelligence community, because they knew they were one of those few people who finally got a hold of all the pieces and put the whole picture together, right? I think that's where the Clintons' basis of power originally came from, because they went to those people and said, hey, we see what you're doing, we're helping you out, and we want more power because then we're going to help you out even more, right? And they said, great.
Part of that was when all that Mena, Arkansas shit was happening. Clinton was the governor of Arkansas, and he was in cahoots with Reagan on the whole fucking Iran-Contra thing. Even though they're on different sides of the aisle or whatever, they're two sides of the same coin. They want the same thing. They wanted to fucking arm the Contras or whatever to fucking fight Iran or whatever the fuck that was. I don't remember exactly. It was like they were using the money from the Contras' arms and cocaine sales to fund sending arms to Iranians to fight the Shah or some shit.
And then busting people in America for having gangs and drug wars and things like that, and throwing them in jail for life, ruining families and developing a culture of society that's degenerate. Yeah.
Well, all of that was happening too, but the crux of this whole thing is that the Clintons were approached when the CIA fucking drug runner got fucking busted with a shitload of cocaine. I know for a fact that William Jefferson Clinton fucking stepped in and told the Attorney General of Arkansas that this man was never here. You never saw him. There was no case. You just let him go. Like, that's how that fucking happened. And like, the only way that could happen is if fucking Reagan called the governor of fucking Arkansas and said, we're using this to fight commies and fucking Iranians and shit, and we need this, blah, blah, blah. And then the governor fucking does the order. Because the governor can do that on a state level without raising some of the suspicions that it would if Reagan fucking did it,
Right. When these are all the reasons why we have this like state of national security revolving around secrecy of things that government officials are doing, is because if the American people actually knew what they were doing, they would put a stop to it. And they would be outraged, and they would take the people who've been in power, who know about these things, who've been implementing these programs, out of power. And what is the one thing that you want if you have power?
More power.
There you go. And you don't want to lose power for sure. So they're doing whatever they can to gain power. They're doing whatever they can to keep power. And that means keeping the shit secret above all.
Whoever this unseen hand behind history fucking is, I don't think they think about power in the same way that I or a senator thinks about power. I think they know they have the power because they know they own all the fucking senators and shit like that. Like,
So
it's not that.
my question is this: do you think talking about these things on an online forum, as we do on a weekly basis, is dangerous for us to do?
I don't know. I'm beyond giving a fuck, to be honest. Like, they can fucking hunt me down. That's where I'm at with it.
I mean,
For the record, I am not suicidal, and if I ever do commit suicide, look into my dad.
I'm a single father of two. There was nothing I would do to ever fucking take myself away from my kids, just so everyone knows out there. Jesus Christ. Like, it's like we're kind of joking talking about that, but we're kind of not at the same time. Not really joking.
I'm just saying, like, if you went walking through parts of my yard, you'd be surprised. I wouldn't do that.
Oh, shit. It's a good thing we have plenty of fire.
And when the squirrels hit the claymores, things get really fucking interesting around here, though.
You got tripwires and shit.
There's proximity mines on the driveway, you know.
Yeah. You got C4 attached to the doorbell.
I wish I had a bunch of fucking bouncing betties like in that game where you just throw them down and they go off if anyone walks within like 100 feet of them or whatever. Or 2 feet in the game.
Right. I think you'd probably accidentally kill some deer, or maybe someone strayed.
That squirrel had it coming, man.
He made squirrel hamburger meat. Squirrel burger.
Well, I think our conversation is winding down, so I might call it into this. I don't know if we got anything out of this other than freaking out about the fact that the National fucking Guard is being deployed now. Which I had heard rumored, but rumors versus the president going, yeah, we're sending out the National Guard.
It just means that any timeline that they put right now, because like Trump was like, oh, like the cure might be worse than the disease. Did you hear him talking about that? And like talking about maybe lifting restrictions in 2 weeks. But like in 2 weeks, if the National Guard's out and the number of population is fucking exploding of people who have the virus, I don't think they're going to be fucking lifting any restrictions. And at that point, the cure might be worse than the disease, but the disease is also bad. So the combination of the cure and the disease might make for a nasty cocktail.
By cure, is he talking about a medicine, or is he talking about just not going anywhere and killing the economy?
He's talking about killing the economy to fucking stop it. Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm sort of with him. I think that we're going to lose a certain number of people no matter what, and that's going to suck, and I'm sorry about that. But if some of the shit comes to pass from this that I think could, if this is the second Great Depression, we are in for a shit show of a decade.
Yes, sir. 2020 is going to be crazy. Remember what I said. Honda was right. Give me the knife. Give me the fucking knife, or I'll shoot. Drop the knife. Oh, my kids are yelling at each other. I gotta go.
Go beat some kids. Well, I'm going to call this an end then. See you guys later. We need to figure out a name for this Honda. He's already gone.